Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. Today we take a look at MK Ultra and mind control. Triple M is located in Canada, and our Prime Minister, Trudeau, to this day, has a gag order on documents from MK Ultra, limiting the public's knowledge. Why are Canadian citizens still forced to be silent on this subject? Why can't the government take responsibility and release the information regarding these experiments on the population? MK Ultra was heavily in operation in the 70s, and as some believe, still continues to this day. It had operations all over North America and the world. It was a program conducted by the CIA, experimenting in techniques to alter people's minds, to create Manchurian candidates and secret assassins. And they were successful. The heads of this program claimed that they could take any average person and turn them into a killer whose portions of their consciousness could be turned on and off as they were used to act out assassinations and other such attacks. Ted Kaczynski was said to have been experimented on in university and was part of the MK Ultra program. Charles Manson is alleged to have been trained by the CIA and had multiple CIA connections. When you look at what he did with his cult, a lot of people would claim that that was mind control. The CIA would often use acid on its subjects in North America that we know of to alter their minds. Charles Manson did the same. Now, you might wonder, what the heck does this have to do with the attempted assassination on Donald Trump? Well, Harvey Oswald, upon being arrested, claimed to have been a patsy. Harvey Oswald had many connections as well to the CIA, and had a very strange and mysterious background regarding those connections. Sirhan, who killed Robert F. Kennedy, claims to this day that he carried out the assassination while under the influence of CIA hypnotism. These men, these lone gunmen, claim to be the victims of an MK-like Ultra program, which I know sounds crazy, but we know that the American government has done it before, as its victims have come forward. Truly, we have no idea the number of actual subjects of this program. The majority of them were unwilling participants. Even to this day, friends, family, neighbors, anyone who was alive at that time could potentially have been experimented on by the Canadian or American government. In fact, the Canadian government has made payouts already, but they've managed to keep the whole thing, as I said earlier, quiet. The man you're watching right now is one such victim, reliving his experience. This scientist wrote of his work, "It was fun, fun, fun."
We are not professing to tell you the complete story of these activities. We are professing to tell you the complete story that we know. Right. But these records that we've uncovered don't tell the story. They tell pieces of it.
You're looking at a photo of Wild Bill Donovan. He was the founder of one of these programs. He's quoted as saying, "We may have made mistakes, but we were never afraid to try things that had never been done before." Donovan appointed this man, Stanley Lovell. He wanted his help in breaking new ground in scientific technical fields. Donovan called Lovell his Dr. Moriarty. Lovell even appeared in magazines and posed for this photo. He stated his goal was to find the bad boy beneath the mind of every American scientist that he worked with, to unleash hell without any thought of the consequences. This scientist, George White, participated in those experiments, and he was the one in his diary who claimed it was fun, fun, fun. He's an OSS captain who had formerly been in the Bureau of Narcotics. These nefarious men, who were psychos, began these experiments, oftentimes on unknowing participants. Even in their own CIA memos, it states, Our goal is controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will.
One of the first times that anybody had run into a powerful drug that was different than anything else that they knew anything about. We could disable a whole city by putting a very small amount on a water supply. After all of these years of us, those of us who were involved in looking for this secret drug, this was the only thing that began to look for the first time like it might be something like that.
What in the world were they looking for with the magic mushrooms?
I think the best answer to that is that they were looking for fundamental information on compounds that would be capable of causing changes in behavior, changes in mental attitude.
Did you ever consider what would have happened if any of these substances were given to, say, unwitting people?
Oh, I don't remember having considered that specifically.
What if you, I trust perhaps you've thought about it.
Well, I haven't worried about it. Your question again, what would I have thought had I known that
any of these substances would
have been given to
unwitting persons?
You mean a hostile agent of another government?
No, I mean
that was probably one of the things they had in mind.
I mean testing it out on an American citizen.
I guess I must seem very, very cold-blooded about this, but I don't recall ever having been very much preoccupied with that issue.
I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing the line. Every decent kid knows he shouldn't steal, but he does it sometimes. We knew damn well we didn't want anyone else to know what we were doing.
From the evil one, deliver me.
From the evil one, deliver me.
At the hour of my death.
At the hour of my death.
Call me and bid me to come to thee.
Call me and bid me to come to thee.
Give me the compass. If you don't, we'll take her eyes. We'll take your family's eyes. We'll make this whole town blind.
Deliver me.
At the hour of my death.
At the hour of my death.
Probably should have come here first.
Come to thee.
Call me and bid me.
So the waiter says, "You may help you, monsieur?" And George White was busy talking with me. I paid no attention to the waiter, so the waiter tapped him on the shoulder, says, "May I help you, monsieur?" George White turned around, whipped his gun out, and stuck it in the guy's face like this in this crowded restaurant.
We were Ivy League, white, middle class. We were naive, totally naive about this, and he felt pretty expert. He knew the whores, the pimps, the people who brought in the drugs.
George White would create traps for locals, in which he'd have prostitutes and drugs and other reasons to get men into hotel rooms, at which point they would be experimented on. At the same time, there was an experiment going where they would mind control the prostitutes, meaning that they would bring in a hooker and they would train her to search for information while she was conducting business as usual. So they weren't just experimenting on the Johns, but on the prostitutes as well. A chemist, Frank Olson, was employed by the CIA. At the meeting with some of the heads of the program, he was secretly dosed with LSD and unknowingly became part of the experiment. After the incident, he became stressed and depressed and was planning on backing out of the program and going public. He checked into a medical facility and later, it is claimed, threw himself out the window. Of course, many believe that this was not a suicide, but instead a murder, preventing Mr. Olson from going public with his knowledge of the program. This man, Harold Blauer, was a professional tennis player. At one point, he was checked into a psychiatric facility. At that facility, he unknowingly became part of the mind-controlled program. As an experiment, they injected him with 5 different strong doses of mescaline. Because of these experiments, he died. This man, Mr. Thornwell, was in the military. One day he was brought in for an interrogation. As part of his interrogation, they injected him with various mind-controlled drugs. Along with that, they also hypnotized him. Their goal with the experiments on Thornwell were to peel back the layers of his mind. After doing this, they believed that they could program him in any way that they wanted to carry out any missions that they wanted.
The pain was so excruciating, felt like somebody was sticking me with 1,000,000 pins, just everywhere. Oh, it just...
Next we go to Canada, McGill University, to the Allen Memorial Institute of Psychiatry. It was here that the CIA also conducted experiments, severe brainwashing experiments. These experiments were conducted by Dr. Cameron. His research was carried out in 3 areas, which he called sleep therapy, psychic driving, and de-patterning.
In his psychic driving, so-called type of therapy, he would give the patient intensive electric treatment in order to make the patient regress deeply, become forgetful, and then he would attempt to implant new ideas in the mind of the patient.
Brainwashing.
Yes, if you like.
We don't know how many Canadians were experimented on here, as the files have since been sealed. We do know that the Canadian government has made an official apology and paid out money to many victims of this program. One of those victims, Val Orlico of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, who was the wife of a member of Parliament even, was one of those such victims.
And then the drug began to take hold very rapidly because it was an IV injection, and things became very furry and very frightening, and had a lot of sensations that it's very difficult to recall. Nobody explained it to me. Nobody ever asked me if I was willing to do it or anything.
He had this feeling that he would be able to get through the resistance of illness and to reach deep changes very quickly.
I thought this was the coldest and most impersonal treatment that anybody could give to anybody in the world. And I became more and more despondent and more angry.
Cameron tried things like regular electroshock therapy and induced sleep or coma. One patient, between electroshock therapies, he kept asleep for as long as 2 months.
people in there were like babies. They cried and they were very disoriented. And we were very afraid of the sleep room. We used to walk very carefully against the side of the corridor that was opposite the sleep room with our backs to the wall when we'd go by.
We're lost. Normally conditioned American who's been trained to kill and then to have no memory of having killed. His brain has not only been washed, as they say, it has been dry cleaned.
Occasions would be the subject selected to produce the kind of behavior that you wish, the amount of time, the procedures that are utilized, and the motivations of the people who are designing, executing, and administering the procedures. You're asking whether an individual can be, under hypnosis, influenced, coerced, persuaded, shaped to perform an antisocial act, or a destructive act, or an act of violence. My answer would be yes.
Captain Marco, will you be good enough to lend Raymond your pistol, please? Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Ben.
Sure, kid. Shoot Bobby, Raymond. Through the forehead.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the US and Canadian governments only admitted to the existence of this program because they had previously been caught doing it. Do we honestly believe that they stopped after they were caught? Governments that have no problem with restraining their own citizens, tearing away their conscious mind, and reprogramming them to be hitmen, assassins. Do we really believe that our governments discontinued this behavior? Or do we think that it's possible that they moved it further underground? And if so, are these additional subjects like Charles Manson, Sirhan Sirhan, and Harvey Oswald all part of a mind control program? If so, would it be silly for us to believe that the recent assassination attempt on Donald Trump could be conducted by one of such subjects? We don't know a lot about Matthew Crooks, about why this 20-year-old tried to kill Donald Trump. What's also very strange is, as I'm sure we're all aware, all the holes in the Secret Service's work that day was allowed to walk into the area carrying a ladder and a rifle, an AR-15, and allowed to remain on a roof where he certainly should have been prevented from being. Nothing about the recent shooting attempt makes sense, unless this young man wasn't doing it alone. Perhaps he was mind-controlled to do so, or could it be that in his case they just knew how to give him a subtle nudge? Either way, it seems our governments have become very adept at knowing how to manipulate everyday citizens into carrying out acts of violence and assassinations. What do you think, guys? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, as we'll be uploading more regularly.